Hello everyone, welcome to MBBS classes. Myself Dr. Hanifa. Today in this video I'll be talking on anatomy of deep neck spaces. So the deep neck space, these are the potential spaces which are created in the head and neck region by the different layers of the deep cervical fascia. So we have seen in the class of anatomy of the cervical fascia that there are two types of cervical fascia, superficial and deep cervical fascia, and it is the deep cervical fascia which contributes in the formation of deep neck spaces. And again, the deep cervical fascia, it has four layers. First is the investing layer, which invests all the muscles of the neck and the facial region. Then the pretracheal fascia, which is the fascia around the viscera of the neck, like thyroid gland, trachea, and the esophagus. Next is the prevertebral fascia, which is the fascia which is present around the vertebra and the prevertebral muscles. And last is the carotid sheath, which gets contributions from the investing layer, pretracheal fascia, and the prevertebral fascia, and it ensheathes the carotid artery, internal jugular vein, and the vagus nerve. So today's class is on deep neck spaces. So here you can see there are two pictures. This is the infrahyoid cross section of the neck, and this is the suprahyoid cross section of the neck. Here we can see this is the mandible, parotid gland, submandibular glands, and the sublingual glands. In healthy condition, what happens? The tissues which are present within these spaces are closely applied to each other, and they are filled with relatively loose connective tissues. So if we see the classification of the deep neck spaces, for easy remembrance, we can say that the deep neck spaces can be classified into four groups, like the spaces in the facial region, in the suprahyoid region, next is the infrahyoid region, and the spaces which are present throughout the entire neck. So the spaces which are present in the facial region are buccal space, canine space, masticator space, which is again it is a component. Subcomponents are masseter, pterygoid, and the temporal space. And the last space in the facial region is the parotid space. If you see the deep neck spaces above the level of hyoid bone, these are sublingual space, submental space, submandibular space, parapharyngeal space, and the peritonsillar space. In the infrahyoid region, there is pretracheal space, which is around the visceral compartment, and the spaces which are present throughout the neck are the retropharyngeal space, danger space, carotid space, and the prevertebral space. If you see here in these two columns, they represent the spaces around the jaw area, and the tissue spaces here are they are defined accordingly to the different types of muscles. So the muscles which help in the compartmentalization of these deep neck spaces are the mylohyoid muscle, buccinator muscle, masseter muscle, medial pterygoid muscle, superior constrictor muscle, and lastly is the orbicularis oris muscle. So as we will proceed with our class, we will see that none of these spaces is actually empty. They are they are covered with the loose connective tissues. And what happens when an infective pathology occurs in a particular space? It destroys that connective tissues, and a potential space is formed in and around that muscles. So if you see that most of the spaces in the suprahyoid region and the facial regions, they are bilateral, except the unpaired space is the sublingual space and the submental space. So dear friends, since you see that there are so many spaces, and anatomy of the deep neck space is really vast topic, and it is not possible to accommodate all the spaces in a single video. Rather, I would say it would be injustice to the topic. So that's why I have designed the topic, and I have divided the class on anatomy of deep neck spaces into three parts. So today in the first part, I'll be talking on the deep neck spaces only of the facial region. In the part 2, I'll be talking on the deep neck spaces around the suprahyoid region, and in the part 3, we'll be talking on the third and the fourth column. So today we are going to cover buccal space, masticator space, parotid space and canine space. So let's proceed with the buccal space. So buccal space, it is a space which is present in the buccal region. From the name itself you can make out. Now let's see the boundaries. The lateral boundary is formed by the superficial cervical fascia which is present just beneath the skin. If you see here, the medial boundary, here the muscle is the buccinator muscle and the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia which covers the buccinator muscle forms the medial boundary. The anterior boundary is formed by the labial musculature, that means the muscles of the lip. The posterior boundary is formed by the pterygomandibular raphe. This pterygomandibular raphe is the fibrous junction which is formed by the two muscles. First is the buccinator muscle and second is the superior constrictor muscle. When these two muscles they join together, they form a junction called the pterygomandibular raphe. This pterygomandibular raphe, it is the posterior boundary of the buccal space, but it is the anterior boundary of the pterygoid space. So you can see that the buccal space can communicate posteriorly with the pterygoid space. Superiorly, the buccal space is limited by the zygomatic arch. Inferiorly, by the lower border of the mandible. You can see this is the mandible. The lower border is the lower limit of the buccal space. Now let's see the contents. The contents are the buccal fat, Stenson's duct, the terminal branches of the facial nerve, facial artery and the facial vein. So we must know what are the contents because when we are exploring, we will encounter these structures. So the source of infection of these buccal space, they are mainly odontogenic in origin and it is seen that the tooth which is mainly responsible are the maxillary, bicuspid and the molar tooth. If you see here, this is the maxilla and this is the maxillary tooth. It most commonly gives rise to the buccal space infection. Sometimes the infection can also occur from the mandibular molars and in children the infection can be of the non-odontogenic origin. Our next space is the masticator space. This masticator space is not a single space, rather it is a combination of the multiple spaces around the different muscles of this region. So there are three components of the masticator space. So what is the masticator space? It is a potential space which is created by the splitting of the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia around the three muscles which are masseter muscle, internal pterygoid or medial pterygoid muscle and the temporalis muscle. So these are the three muscles which limits this masticator space. So the contents of the masticator space are definitely these three muscles, the ramus of the and the body of the mandible. So let's have a look into the diagram. So if you see here, this is a cross section showing the mandible and the zygomatic bone and the green colored line, it represents the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia which is surrounding these muscles. And this whole area is the area of the masticator space. If we see the axial cross section, the investing layer in the suprahyoid region, if you see here, it is investing the submandibular gland. Then it is again dividing and it is enclosing the mandible and the two muscles. The outer muscle is the masseter muscle and medially lies the medial pterygoid. Then this investing layer, it fuses with each other and it again splits to enclose the parotid gland. So the components of the masticator space are masseteric space, pterygoid space and the temporal space. So these three spaces, they not only intercommunicate with each other, but they also communicate with the other adjacent spaces like parotid space posteriorly. This is the area medially of the parapharynx and they can communicate with the parapharyngeal space also. So now let's see the first component of the masticator space, that is the mesenteric space. This mesenteric space, these are the series of spaces which is present between the lateral surface of the mandible medially and the masseter muscle laterally. These are formed as the mesenteric fibers when they insert into the mandible. It has multiple insertion point into most of the part of the lateral ramus of the mandible. So if we see that anteriorly, again if we have a look into the axial cross section, you will see that anteriorly it is limited by the inner surface of the mesenteric fascia, posteriorly by the parieto-mesenteric fascia. If you remember from the anatomy class again, the investing layer, when it encloses the parotid gland, the outer lamina of the parotid fascia is called the parieto-mesenteric fascia. So it forms the posterior limit of the mesenteric space. Superiorly, it is limited by the zygomatic bone, and inferiorly, it is limited by the angle and the inferior border of the ramus. Now let's move on to the next subcomponent of the masticator space, that is the pterygoid space. This pterygoid space, it is also known as the pterygomandibular space. This space, it is located between the medial surface of the ramus of the mandible and the medial pterygoid muscle. So if you see here again the same diagram, this is the medial surface of the ramus of the mandible and this is the medial pterygoid muscle and the investing fascia over this muscle. So this space, the red circled space is the pterygoid space. Now let's look into the boundaries of the pterygoid space. Anteriorly, the pterygoid space is limited by the pterygomandibular raphe, which is again the posterior limit of the buccal space. This pterygomandibular raphe is a fibrous junction which is formed by the fusion of two muscles, buccinator and the superior constrictor muscle. Posteriorly, it is limited by the parotid gland. What happens? This parotid gland, it curves medially around the back of the mandible and mandibular ramus and it forms its posterior border. Superiorly, the limit is same zygomatic bone. Inferiorly, it is by the angle and the inferior border of the ramus of the mandible. Laterally by the medial surface of the ramus of the mandible. Superomedially is formed by the lateral pterygoid muscle and medially and inferiorly is contributed by the medial pterygoid muscle. So in the CT scan axial section, if you see here, this is the maxilla, this is the medial pterygoid plate and the lateral pterygoid plate. Here is the external auditory canal and this is the area of the pterygoid space. It contains inferior alveolar nerve, artery and the vein, lingual nerve and nerve to mylohyoid muscle. If we see the sources of infection of this space, it occurs due to the infection of the third maxillary molar. So if you see here, this is the pterygoid space and this is the maxillary molar. So if there will be any infection of maxillary molar, there is a possibility of pterygoid space to be involved. Then if there is any surgery of the third molar or mandibular orthognathic surgery, then the pterygoid space is likely to be involved. The third component of the masticator space is the temporal space. This temporal space, it is located between the investing layer of deep cervical fascia and the temporalis muscle. There are two components of the temporal space. Number one is the superficial temporal compartment, which is represented here by A, and the second component is the deep temporal compartment, which is represented by the B. Now let's see the individual boundaries. The superficial temporal compartment is limited by the temporalis fascia, which is the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia. Then medially it is bounded by the temporalis muscle. If we see the boundaries of the deep temporal compartment, laterally is by the deep surface of the temporalis muscle and medially is by the periosteum of the overlying temporal bone. The temporal space, it contains internal maxillary artery and its branches, inferior alveolar artery and nerve. And if we see the source of infection, it is again the most common source is the odontogenic origin. It is seen from the maxillary molars. Sometimes it can also occur following maxillary sinusitis or certain procedures involving the TM joint. Like sepsis can occur following injections into the temporomandibular joint or when a patient has undergone temporomandibular joint arthroscopy. So parotid space is another deep neck space which is found in the facial region. So the parotid space is bounded by the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia around the parotid gland. So if you see here, this is an investing layer of the deep cervical fascia. We have seen in the anatomy class on deep cervical fascia that this investing layer, it splits at the level of stylomandibular ligament to enclose the glands. It splits into the superficial lamina and the deep lamina. The superficial lamina gets attached to the zygomatic arch and the deep lamina to the tympanic plate. So if you remember, the superficial lamina, it fuses with the mesenteric muscle. It forms the parotidomesenteric fascia. This superficial lamina is very tough lamina, unyielding type of lamina, whereas the deep lamina is thin in nature. So the space, parotid space, it is a space in and around the parotid gland. It extends from the external auditory canal to the angle of the mandible, and this space, it lies behind the ramus of the mandible and in and around. If you see here the cross section, this is the ramus of the mandible, this is the mastoid process, and this whole is the parotid gland. Here you can see the parotid gland is present outside and in and around the mandible. So space is all in and around the mandibular area. If we see the contents of the parotid space, it contains the parotid gland, the proximal part of the parotid duct, facial nerve, it runs through the substance of the gland. Then we get a retromandibular vein, intraparotid nodes which are present underneath the capsule of the parotid, and terminal branches of the external carotid artery. And if you see here, since the deep lamina is thin in nature, there is a likelihood of spread of infection medially. If you see, this is the internal jugular vein and this is the common carotid artery. This is a parapharyngeal space, and since it is a thin lamina, the infection can spread medially to the parapharyngeal space. Now let's see the relation of the parotid space with the other spaces of the neck. Now, if you again look at this diagram, this is the parotid space. This is space which is present medially is the parapharyngeal space. And this is a schematic diagram which is representing the spaces. If you see, this is the parotid space and this is the masticator space. So, the masticator space, if you see here, it is lying anterior to the parotid space. And if you see that the parapharyngeal space is located posterior-medially to the parotid space. So the parotid space, if it spreads medially, it can involve the parapharyngeal space. If it spreads anteriorly, it can involve the masticator space, and the parapharyngeal space and the carotid space, they are in close communication with each other, or you can say it is a common space also, because parapharyngeal space again has a pre-styloid and the post-styloid compartment. We'll see in another video. So the parotid space can intercommunicate with the other spaces. So how the infection of the parotid space occurs? It arises mostly following attacks of sialoidinitis or by the parotiditis. And this parotiditis is really very painful because we know that the superficial lamina of the parotid fascia is very tough, unyielding type of fascia. So any inflammation is really painful. The last space for today's class is the canine space. So canine space, still there is a debate on this space whether it is a true facial space or it is a space in the muscular compartments of the muscles of the face. So the canine space, it is a potential space present around the upper jaw. It is seen that the canine space infection, they occur as a result of root abscess of the upper canine teeth, that is the maxillary teeth. So what happens if there is an infection of the upper canine teeth or the maxillary teeth? If there is a perforation of the lateral cortex of the maxilla above the insertion of levator labii superioris muscle of the upper lip, it can lead to the involvement of the canine space. So if you see here the muscles of the face, here you can see that there are two muscles, zygomaticus muscle and the levator labii superioris muscle. So this levator labii superioris is inserted high in the area of the maxilla, and when the upper canine teeth is involved, and if there is perforation of the maxilla above the insertion of this muscle, the patient will get infection of this canine space. But what happens when the patient they have infection of the canine tooth, but when the maxilla it perforates below the insertion of this muscle, then the patient will present as the swelling lateral to the nares or the upper lip. And if you see that the canine space, it is a space between the levator labii superioris muscle and the zygomaticus muscle. With this, I come to an end of this video. Thank you for watching this video.